All right, I'm back. And it says welcome again in front of me. So welcome, everyone. And welcome, Governor-elect Northam. Thanks, Barry. When I listened to the panels this morning, I think it is really obvious that a lot of thought has gone into what we're trying to do here at the Virginia Chamber of Commerce and what we're trying to do in Virginia. And the fact that the governor-elect is here with us speaks volumes about the business community's interaction with him and with his incoming administration. We heard a panel of top Virginia businesses discuss why Virginia is a great place to do business and gain some real insight into the top issues for those businesses. We heard from a panel of economic development leaders who discussed how we can position Virginia for growth. And perhaps more importantly, you heard throughout the day about how the Virginia business community is aligned. We're unified. This is the largest alignment that I can ever recall. There are 200 people more at this event than there were 1 year ago. All the oars are pulling in the right direction, which is to make Virginia strong, make it better, make sure that the business community is heard, and make sure that our agenda is good for all Virginians. Barry just went through our lunch program today, and I think it will culminate here with the unveiling of the blueprint, which is actually at your table, so no one sneak. But what I'd like to do is introduce Bob Blue. Bob is the chair of the Blueprint 2025 Steering Committee. He's an executive vice president for Dominion Energy and president and CEO of the Power Delivery Group for Dominion. He oversees Dominion's regulated electric transmission distribution and customer service operations that provide electricity to about 2.4 million customer accounts in Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. He's been with Dominion since 2005, and prior to that, he was the chief, I called him chief counselor to then Governor Mark Warner. And he arrived there from Hogan and Hartson, a law firm. He is a member of an important university's Board of Visitors. That would be the University of Virginia. That's a fine school. It's he also graduated from that fine school and the Yale Law School, and he got an MBA from UVA's Darden School of Business. Now it comes to my handwritten remarks here. Bob is smart, he is dedicated, he's motivated, and he is a man of the highest integrity. He is honorable, and most important, he's a heck of a nice guy. And he represents Dominion well, he represents the Chamber well, and with that, please join me in welcoming Bob Blue.
Thank you, Dennis. Those last comments caused me to question your Virginia Tech education. They apparently didn't teach you quite as well there as I thought, but Dennis doesn't mind saying anything about UVA when we're talking about football, or at least he hasn't for the last now 14 years. Just wait till lacrosse season. It's been my pleasure to serve as the chairman of Blueprint Virginia 2025, and I'm just very briefly, before I turn it over to Barry to walk through the components of it, I would like to thank a few folks. First, I'd like to thank Governor-elect Northam for coming. It's very exciting for us to be able to offer our thoughts and vision, and it's been the work, as you'll hear, of a host of folks around the Commonwealth. I'm starting with our Vice Chair, Jennifer Boykin, President of Newport News Shipbuilding. She couldn't be here today, but to have the insights of a leader at such an important company for our Commonwealth and our country was invaluable to the team. I know that there are a number of folks who, my fellow members of the Blueprint Virginia Steering Committee, who are here. If you could stand so that we could get an opportunity to recognize you, I would appreciate it. And I know you're out there, so please. While Virginia has been blessed by a historically strong economy, you heard this morning that we're slipping some. We've seen some slipping in the national rankings for business. And so that means we need to be more committed than ever to foster a pro-business environment in Virginia. And that's the basis for Blueprint Virginia 2025. And I think you've heard from a number of folks already today. Dennis mentioned it and Barry mentioned it here at lunch. There seems to be a unique alignment that is happening right now around the principles and the ideas and objectives that we need to foster economic development in Virginia. And we tried to capture that in the Blueprint Virginia 2025 document. So it's been an honor for me to be part of that development. And I think that our business community, you can see it from the number of folks who are in this room, is more united than it has ever been in making sure that Virginia succeeds economically, and we look forward to the opportunity to work with the governor-elect as he implements his vision for Virginia. Before I turn the program over to Barry to walk through the sort of high level of Blueprint Virginia 2025, there are a couple of other folks that I particularly want to thank. Kim McKay and Samantha Quigg from the chamber staff, if you all are here, they took the laboring oar on this document. Where are you? You got to be somewhere out there. Am I not seeing them? They must have snuck out to avoid. Ah, there they are. Stand up, please. Under Barry's excellent leadership, they did the work on this document, and I think you can see what a great product it is. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Barry to walk through a high level of Blueprint Virginia 2025, and thank you very much, Barry.
So thank you, Bob, for your leadership of the steering committee, and thank all of you. Reach to the middle of your table and pull out this document. This is the Blueprint 2025 document that we're so pleased to walk you through today. And I want to make sure that you know I'm not going to read the entire document in the next 45 minutes. I simply want to call on a couple of highlights of the features of how we organize this document, and I'm going to just ask you to be mindful of the purpose of this document. The principles have been the same principles that we followed 4 years ago. This is a long-term economic plan, it's a nonpartisan plan, and it's a unified plan. And I hope that you will get a sense of that as we go through it. On the screen, I just have a screenshot of the previous blueprint we presented to Governor McAuliffe 4 years ago. And I want to thank him and then Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam and the members of the General Assembly for your work. I do have a slide and a page in there in the blueprint about what we've done since we adopted the first blueprint. We've had about 375 pro-business bills pass. We've been able to actually use the power of the blueprint in the business community to defeat some anti-business bills, and we've been able to see a positive economic impact of Virginia at about $10 billion. We also have had a lot of legislation passed. I will say some of the initiatives that were talked about this morning, the Go Virginia initiative, which was absolutely critical to lay a foundation for new transformational growth in regions. We were able to get credentialing programs passed by our community college for a pay-for-performance, one of Governor McAuliffe's achievements nationally for the first time. We were also able to get some significant transportation funding because of the voice of the business community advocating for transportation infrastructure. And for that, I thank all of the partners that are in this room and those that are not. The first page I'll turn you to is page 5 in the blueprint. And I'd like to just talk a little bit about, well, let me mention the reasons for it have already been said. I have a screenshot that repeats what we heard this morning. Falling from national rankings, slow economic growth, and uneven regional growth. I think we're going to turn that around. But I want to talk about the process that we used to get here, and that was to focus on the pillars of economic development and those who are involved in helping us develop the priorities of Blueprint. The priorities of Blueprint, if you'll look at page 5 for me, we decided to outline what every region needs to have to grow and succeed. One of the principles of growth you heard from Debbie Wynn and other business leaders this morning is that regions are not growing and prospering along political boundaries. They're growing and prospering along economic boundaries. And we think it's important to recognize these 6 pillars are critical foundation, and we list them on page 5. A well-trained talent supply, infrastructure and business leadership, competitive pro-business climate, regional prosperity for every region, innovation and entrepreneurship, and a high quality of life. The way we developed the blueprint with the number of people who were involved, over 6,000 people were involved in the blueprint. They took surveys, they came to industry council meetings, they participated in signature events. Many of you in this room participated, and your priorities were made known. If you look although I just have a slide up here that's not in your book, I thought you might want to see all the places we went in Virginia. It's a big state, isn't it, Lieutenant Governor? I mean, if you've traveled the Commonwealth of Virginia, you've traveled across a lot of property, and the dots on that map demonstrate where we went for public input, and then I also provided the dates and times. And actually in August, we met with Lieutenant Governor, candidate for governor, and shared with him the results of our survey and his policy team as well. Now we get down to our key priorities, and our key priorities are really all listed on page 6 and 7. In page 6 and 7, at one time, you can see what are the top priorities for Blueprint. And I'll spend just a minute on these before I walk you through the individual recommendations. What we heard this morning was talent supply, talent supply, talent supply. That's why it's the #1 issue. When we did our surveying across the state, no matter which region we were in, we heard the #1 concern of the business community was a well-trained workforce. And that's why we've placed talent supply and building a talent supply as our top priority, and we look forward to working with this new governor and his administration on that. The second is business climate and focusing on how we improve the business climate of Virginia. You heard from Stephen Murray and Debbie Wynn on a number of initiatives that we'll be endorsing and supporting to get behind the improvement of our business climate, whether it's specific initiatives about marketing Virginia to the outside world, or initiatives around improving our trade policies, initiatives about developing sites that are important. All of that is called for in Blueprint Virginia. I think Stephen did a nice job of listing about 10 initiatives and had the blueprint signal beside each one that called for in the blueprint. And prosperity for all regions. We know that not all regions will grow at the same rate, but we do want all regions to grow in Virginia. And we've put forward a plan that actually accentuates the benefits of rural Virginia with initiatives around using it as an opportunity to bring businesses that want to expand outside perhaps some of the urban areas and take advantage of the great quality of life. And we've talked a lot about infrastructure, and that's why it's the next one. And the port is a critical economic engine for Virginia, our highways and our rail, but also broadband. We have to ensure that we compete with broadband and view it as important as any utility that is represented by any utility in this room. We have to see it as an essential part of a family's lifeline to the future. And that's why we hope to come up with some public-private partnerships, perhaps, Governor, some innovative financing methods that allow businesses to go where perhaps all the demand hasn't risen yet. I think there's more to do here, and we ought to come up with some solutions to ensure that Virginia is the most wired and the most competitive state, and that every region participates in that and is not left behind. And innovation and entrepreneurship. This is obviously critical for us as well. It is interesting statistically, you'll see some of these fun facts throughout the book in blue. When businesses do start here, they're actually very successful in Virginia, but we don't have as high a rate of starting businesses as we'd like. And then lastly, something Stephen Murray indicated and Debbie Wynn talked about earlier. We have to be willing to be honest with ourselves about where we are and where we're going, and consistently and annually do an economic review of Virginia's progress. I want to invite you all back here a year from now to see how we've progressed, to see what we've been able to accomplish, to see what our improvements have been. Working with this new administration and members of the General Assembly, I think we have a brighter future. Let me kind of point you to the last sections of this book. We have 9 areas of competitiveness in this book. They are kind of outlined with these wonderful icons that creative people came up with on page 8 that represent these areas of competitiveness, and workforce and education on page 10, business climate on page 14, transportation on 18, and healthcare and energy and so forth. What I'm going to do is just click through sort of the screenshot page of the first part of each one, because I think it might be helpful for you to know that if you have 5 minutes or you have 50 minutes, you can glance at the blueprint and find ideas that will be meaningful to you. If you're a business person or a public policy leader, this blueprint, we hope, will serve as a resource for you. So in workforce and education, I want to acknowledge Bill Ermatinger and the team of people that helped oversee this. This was focused on how to prepare the workforce. You'll see recommendations in here for the entire workforce pipeline, the importance of early childhood education, the importance of connecting reinventing K through 12, the importance of community college and credentialing, and the importance of supporting our four-year institutions. The importance of connecting businesses to the school system. If you glance inside page 10 and 11, you'll see some places highlighted in blue. Those are part of the key principles that we are enhancing and we are working to implement. And that is how we've structured each section. If you turn with me to the business climate section, page 14, you'll see a similar structure. The business climate priorities are listed up top. I've already covered, and those have been spoken about. I want to acknowledge Dr. Jerry Gordon, the president of Fairfax Economic Development, and Chris Lloyd, the senior vice president of McGuire Woods, focused on infrastructure and economic development. Thank them and everyone here on the business climate industry team. This Prosperity for All region and some of these initiatives that Stephen outlined this morning are all reflected in this blueprint as part of business climate. And then we want to turn to transportation on page 18. We have a recognition of all modes of transportation that need to be invested in and the infrastructure. And I want to thank John O'Neill, a partner with Hunton & Williams, and our friend, the former chair, Whit Clement, former chair of the chamber, for their leadership, and all of you who have helped us develop these ideas of investing in transportation. And we recognize the importance of logistics and the port, multimodal, roads and bridges, and expanding Virginia's rail. And also a theme in almost every industry council is talent supply. Because when we were meeting with the transportation people, they were talking about talent supply. When we were meeting with manufacturing people, they were talking about talent supply. So, Bill, it runs across the entire Commonwealth. And you've got more industrial employers that you train than anyone else at Newport News Ship and Huntington Ingalls. And thank you for leading that effort. I also want to turn your attention to an important part of our economy, which represents about 18% of our gross state product, and that is healthcare. And I want to acknowledge the great work done by Bill Downey, who's president of Riverside Health System, and Paige Clay, a partner with Mercer, in leading all of those people around the conversation and putting forward recommendations about how we improve population health and wellness, how we in fact improve access, how do we improve quality and at the same time control cost. A lot of powerful ideas are laid out in here, and we look forward to working with the new Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Governor's administration, and this governor is an expert on healthcare himself, on implementing those priorities. And as you turn to energy, we're committed to improving our sustainability and our efficiency, committed to improving our energy diversity. We're committed to improving that there's infrastructure and regulation that allows our projects to go forward, and also the talent supply necessary for energy, a top priority for us as well. And I want to thank Jack Reeser for heading up and leading our energy sector, president of Old Dominion Electric Co-op. And then if you turn to page 24, you'll see our innovation and entrepreneurship and technology. Josh Levy, the vice president of Northern Virginia Community College, and Bob Stolley, senior vice president of public policy at CIT. Thanks for your leadership on this. We brought all the technology councils together over the summer. We developed top priorities for them. We had the best ideas from the universities. How can we create technology ecosystems? How can we grow Virginia's technology industry sector? How can we promote more entrepreneurship? And how can we promote research and development? And we have emphasis on broadband here as well, all laid out in this particular book. And then we think manufacturing, although not the fastest growing employment section, an important section for our Commonwealth. When we polled the regions of Virginia and we asked each region what they envisioned growth, what could help their region grow, over 50% of the states said, we think that manufacturing and advanced manufacturing can help us grow. And I want to thank Ned Massey of Croatan Advisors, former chair of the State Chamber, for leading this manufacturing effort, suggesting that targeted tax reform and streamlining regulation, creating a stronger environment for economic development projects, and again, talent supply. And we acknowledge the partnership we had with the Virginia Manufacturers Association in helping us with this group. And then we didn't leave out the environment. You know, I get the chance to meet with counterparts in other parts of the country. My counterparts haven't generally been meeting with environmentalists in the past, but we at the State Chamber have been meeting with them. We've been reaching out to them and we have had a great partnership with the environmental community. And we think you can have great economic development and protect the environment in Virginia, and we've put forward a plan to do just that. I want to thank Brooks Smith that has helped us with this particular initiative, and he is a partner with Troutman Sanders Strategies, another one of our partners. We put forward priorities of protecting our land and water resources, embracing corporate sustainability, outdoor recreational opportunities, and streamlining the regulatory process. And while none of these are listed in the last but not least, I would say perhaps above all, we value our military. And if you look at page 30, we recognize that our military assets, perhaps the founding of the Commonwealth of Virginia, built around the strong location in the mid-Atlantic, built around the strong military assets that have been invested here, and in fact continue here. We want to protect and build on those assets. We want to be smart about it. We want to strengthen the military missions that currently exist in Virginia. And we want to work closely with our individuals that are in the military. I want to thank Ross Brown, who's here. He is with J.P. Morgan Chase. Ross has a national job working directly for Jamie Dimon, heading up military and veterans affairs for the company, trying to encourage businesses around the nation to hire veterans. But Ross lives in Virginia, and he is a Virginian, and so he agreed to head up this military. So Ross, thank you so much for that. And again, I want to acknowledge our partnership with this administration through focusing on improving the number of companies that value veterans and hire veterans. You'll see on page 30 and 31 our priorities for improving the way that veterans leave and enter our workforce. And the companies hire those veterans as soon as they know they're available. We're working on some strategies and we want to implement them to make sure we're more successful at that in the past. Our veterans can help us close the workforce skills gap, and we're committed to our veterans in this Commonwealth of Virginia, and we wanted to reflect that in Blueprint Virginia. Those are our 9 industry councils. I think a lot of what I'd like to do before I present this to the governor is say thank you and then tell you how we're going to implement it. I want to show you that this was broadly supported. On page 34, 32, and 34 and 33, I want to thank our steering committee. I want to thank our advisory committee. On page 34, over 90 organizations that participated in developing this blueprint. I want to thank our chamber board of directors, and I want to thank our sponsors that helped underwrite this entire endeavor. Somebody asked me earlier, how are we going to implement and how are we going to measure our success? The slides, this last slide I have for you will show you that our intention is to ask you to stay on the job, to stay engaged, to continue to work, to continue to keep your hand on the plow. We want to make these industry councils permanent. And if you have an interest in being on this industry council, we would like for you to participate. If your company has somebody who would like to be on workforce and someone else on sustainability, we want all of them to participate. So each of you here will get an email from me in the next few weeks with a mechanism to allow you to sign up for which industry council you would like to be on. We're going to develop our metrics in 2018 and begin to hold ourselves accountable for success going forward. We think what gets measured gets done, and we believe that by having a focus on each of these industry councils, we will have success in the future. And with that, I'd like to ask these 2 gentlemen to stand and join me. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like for you to show your appreciation for his willingness to serve for the next 4 years and congratulate him on being elected the next governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Honorable Ralph Northam.
Well, good afternoon. It is good to be back with the Chamber, back in Williamsburg. And Barry, thank you so much for presenting this blueprint. And I almost wonder if we've been using the same playbook because a lot of your priorities are the same priorities that we have worked on over the previous years and that we look forward to working on in the next 4 years. But I want to thank you, Barry, for your leadership, your friendship. I've spoken now to the Chamber several times, and you have been so kind, and you have worked so hard and shown such great leadership. And I actually, we had a little time at the table to visit with the chairman of your board, and I have suggested, and I hope you will support the suggestion, that we give Barry a nice raise and a good Christmas bonus. So, and now you see how I was elected, right? But no, it is great to be with you all, and I don't know about you all, but I'm proud to be a Virginian, and it's a great day to be a Virginian, and I look forward to implementing this blueprint together with you and taking Virginia to the next level. And it wasn't that long ago, as Barry said, Virginia was the #1 state in this country to do business, and we're not that far away, and it's doable. And so I look forward to working with all of you, and I certainly can't make any promises like a pay raise to Barry, but I would certainly hope that in 4 years after our work that we're back in the #1 seat to do business in this great country. So thank you all for your support. I wanted to take care of a little bit of house cleaning if I could. I understand one of my colleagues from the Senate was here this morning, Senator Tommy Norman, and made some comments about he and I going to the same reform school. Just a little bird, told me some of the comments, and I had never really looked at it as a reform school. As you all know, I'm talking about the Virginia Military Institute, but I would just tell you to look at Tommy and look at me and see if reform worked, and I'll leave that up to you. I want to just make a quick comment. I think Ed Gillespie and I would both agree that we are glad to have this campaign, this election, in the rearview mirror. I got to know Ed well on the campaign trail, as you might imagine, and I think we had 2 good candidates running for governor this year, and we had 3 debates. Actually, one of the debates was interrupted by some protesters, and so Ed and I had a chance to talk to each other. He's a good person, and I appreciate his leadership, and I appreciate his willingness to work with me, to work with us as we continue to move Virginia in a positive direction. So I don't know if Ed is with us today, but he ran a great campaign, and as I said, I think it was a civil campaign. It was something that we as Virginians can be proud of, and we're all ready to move forward and lead Virginia. I know that Todd Haymore was here this morning, and I don't know whether he's still with us, but I did want to give him a shout out. As you know, he was our Secretary of Agriculture and then became our Secretary of Commerce, and has just done a wonderful job. He's worked very hard. As you know, he brought in over 215,000 new jobs. Our unemployment rate has gone down to 3.6%. It's the lowest it's been in 9 years. And despite what I could offer to Todd, what little money I had left after the campaign, even offered him the car that I can no longer drive, Todd has chosen to enter the private sector. And so I'm excited for Todd. We should be excited for Todd, but we should all thank Todd when we see him for his work in public service, the dedication that he contributed to the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I will do all that I can to make sure that I won't say that we can replace Todd, but we will find a Secretary of Commerce who is bipartisan, who understands business, and who also will want to move Virginia in a positive direction. So you can kind of stay tuned for that. That should happen in the next few days when we will make that announcement. I would also like to recognize a friend to the Commonwealth of Virginia, a friend to me. He's been a mentor, and he's done wonderful work as our Secretary of Transportation, and that is Aubrey Lane. And just a few little facts that you may not have known. Aubrey Lane and I both have 1971 Corvette convertibles. Did you all know that? Probably didn't know that. Did you know this? Our second child, Pam and I have 2 children. Our second child is named Aubrey. And a few other fun facts. We used to enjoy fishing, Aubrey, but thank you for your service. These transportation projects that you see going on around the Commonwealth of Virginia, a lot of them are related to the 2013 package, which was a bipartisan piece of legislation that finally brought some new revenue into transportation for Virginia, that we then had the SMART scale. But Aubrey has done great work for the Commonwealth, and I'm so pleased, and I hope you're excited as well, that he has agreed to be our next Secretary of Finance for the Commonwealth of Virginia. So Aubrey Lane, we're so proud of you. As you might imagine, as a small business owner, I am a co-owner, I would say, of a medical group, children's specialty group here in Hampton Roads. We started with about 30 pediatric subspecialists, and we've grown now to over 100 pediatric subspecialists. We employ a little bit over 250 individuals. So I know a little bit about starting a business and running a successful business, but I've also had a lot of conversations with business leaders around the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I think it's clear, and Barry hit the nail on the head when we talk about regions. We have to be very careful that regions across the Commonwealth of Virginia don't rely on just one industry. And so if you go to places like Northern Virginia, where we're still very dependent on the military and government contracting, we also are dependent on that in Hampton Roads. In the southwest of Virginia, we're certainly still very dependent on the coal industry, metallurgical coal. There's still a good demand for that, not as good a demand for steam coal. You go to the Eastern Shore, where I'm from, and we have farming and people that work on the water. But we've really, with some urgency, we need to expand or diversify our economy, and we need to do that region by region. We need to look at the resources that we have, the talent that was mentioned earlier. And that's the way we really need to move our economy forward. So, you know, I look forward to doing that. And I think the first thing that we have to recognize is that the jobs of the 21st century are much different from when I was growing up. They're really in what we call, and we always like to add letters to this, but we used to have STEM, and I've kind of modified that to STEAM, and now we've got STEAM H. But science, technology, engineering, the arts, math, and healthcare, those are the jobs of the 21st century. So things like cybersecurity, unmanned aerial systems, biotechnology, data collection, data analysis, artificial intelligence, these are the jobs of the 21st century. So we've got to all work together to bring skills to jobs. And so how do we do that? We do that by working with our great colleges and universities. And I have a plan, and it might be a little bit ambitious, but it is to have what I would refer to as a dashboard of the jobs that are available across the Commonwealth of Virginia right now, so that the business community can participate in that process, and also the education community can participate. In other words, how we train individuals for those jobs, and also individuals in Virginia can know what jobs are available. So I'm excited about looking at that as we move forward. We need to make sure that our colleges and universities, and we are blessed in Virginia to have great colleges and universities, but we need to make sure that they're affordable. We have 23 great community college systems, and we need to support them. We need to market what they have to offer out there. And a point that I like to make all the time, and perhaps Pam and I are just as guilty as anybody else, but it's almost like if our children don't go to a 4-year college or university, that they're not going to be successful. And we need to get past that stigma, because I can promise you there are a number of jobs out there right now that you don't need a 4-year education for. And so we used to refer to jobs as white collar or blue collar. Now we refer to them as the new collar jobs. So we have a plan on the table. It's called G3, Get Skilled, Get a Job, and Give Back, which allows individuals in Virginia to enter one of our community college systems or an apprenticeship, and without incurring any debt, become certified and then give back at least a year with pay to public service or in a high-demand area or a high-demand job in Virginia. So I look forward, and I hope we can receive support for that plan as we move forward. We have done a lot of work over the last 4 years, and we certainly want to continue this with the K through 12 education. And I believe strongly, as you know, my background is in taking care of children, but there is power in every child. And we need to make sure that every one of our child can reach their potential. And we have worked very hard to revise the SOLs. We really need to stop teaching our children how to take multiple choice tests. They need to learn to think creatively. Absolutely. Do we need accountability? Sure. But we can do that. And something that Barry mentioned, and you will see and hear a lot more from me and my wife Pam, and that's early childhood education. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but when we talk about economic development and workforce development, there's a tremendous learning potential in our children before they even reach kindergarten. And as I tell people sometimes, if one family has the means to send their children to pre-K and another one doesn't, that's really what starts the gap between the haves and the have-nots. So we've made a lot of progress, but at the end of my next term, I would like to be able to tell you that all of our children in Virginia have access to pre-K education. Thank you. As you may be able to tell, as Barry said, I was laughing, Barry, when you showed all the points around Virginia. Virginia's a beautiful state, and I have enjoyed traveling, but there's a lot of miles out there when you travel around. And as I remind people when I'm up in Northern Virginia, I don't know if you can tell by the way I talk, but I'm not from Northern Virginia. I'm actually from rural Virginia, and so when we talk about economic development, I mentioned to you earlier that the unemployment rate in Virginia is at 3.6%, but I can promise you if you go to the Eastern Shore, the South Side, or the Southwest, or up in the Shenandoah Valley, we still have a lot of work to do. And so some of these things have already been talked about, but one of them is broadband. Now, can you imagine trying to grow a business or start a new business or bring in manufacturers to rural Virginia when we don't have broadband? Can you imagine educating your children when they have an assignment at school and go home at night and don't have access to the internet? So it is a pet peeve of mine, but in the next 4 years, we have all got to work together to make sure that every area of the Commonwealth of Virginia has access to broadband and cell coverage. We also need to make sure that people have access to health care. As you know, we have lost 2 hospitals out in the Southwest. And I will tell you that when you talk to a business, when you talk to a manufacturer and say, we would really like you to come to Virginia, and they say, by the way, how is health care? And then we say, well, we've already lost 2 hospitals, and we've got other hospitals in rural Virginia that are operating in the red. We can't do that. So I hope that all of us will work together to make sure that we can make health care a priority in Virginia and to make sure that no individual, we're all going to have a day when we need to go see a provider, need to go see a doctor. Nobody should have to sit there and decide whether they can put bread on the table or go see the doctor. So we want to make sure that all Virginians have access to affordable and quality care. And people ask me all the time, they say, Ralph, what do you see as the major challenge in Virginia? And I would tell you right now it's the opioid crisis. We last year lost over 1,100 Virginians. There are over 900 people sitting in this room right now. Think of just adding a couple hundred to that. These individuals have lost their lives due to opioid overdose, and I will promise you it does not discriminate. And as I remind people all the time, there are consequences to limited resources, so that we need to do everything that we can to tackle the opioid crisis, but we need resources to be able to deal with that. So I appreciate you all helping in that endeavor as well. Now, I want to move on just a little bit, and I see my friend Stephen Murray sitting in the audience. And Stephen, you know this, but I'm so proud, I'm so happy that you're here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I was part of that search committee, and Stephen has hit the ground running. And the VEDP is alive and well. And can we do better? Absolutely. But we have a lot of different tools. And Stephen, I know you're aware of this in Virginia. We have Go Virginia. And Debbie, thank you for all your efforts. And I know a lot of the other business community has been involved in that. And what a great concept, especially when we talk about regional economic development. So I look forward to working with you. But we do have these tools like Go Virginia, and like CIT, and accelerators and incubators and Mach 37 and tax credits that we have available to help businesses grow and to start new businesses in Virginia. But it's been my perception that we still have a few silos out there. So I look forward in the next 4 years to working with Stephen and bringing some of these silos under the same tent and really promoting strong economic development through the VEDP. And I know you've probably already talked about it, but I think this is a concept that is so exciting, and that's the quick start concept where we actually will be able to go to other states, to other countries, to visit businesses that are interested in coming to the Commonwealth of Virginia and having the first experience of seeing what they need for workforce development, and then coming back and training those individuals so that these businesses will be up and running. And it's a great concept. And that's going to take some resources, Stephen, and I know we've got some great senators and delegates in the room, and so I hope you all will support that concept as we move forward. The final thing, and I don't want to trespass on too much of your time, but I want to leave you on this note, and that is that, and John Newby, it's so great to see you in the audience, but I am a veteran. I served in the United States Army for 8 years. I took care of wounded soldiers during Desert Storm, and as we sit here today in peace and have our democracy, there are men and women that are out there in uniform that are fighting right now for our freedom. And I will do everything that I can, and I hope you all will too, to make sure that we take care of our veterans and that we, as Virginia, are the #1 state in this country to be veteran-friendly. And Barry already mentioned this, and that is the V3 program. And I know a lot of folks in here have helped support that V3 program. Our goal, believe it or not, was to hire 20,000 new veterans by 2018 at the end of Governor McCullough's administration. We've now gone past 20, we've gone past 25,000. We're very close to 30,000. That's something that we should all, as Virginians, be proud of. And Governor McCullough and our good friends, and I remind him, I said, you know, you're just kind of getting warmed up, Governor McCullough. We're going to hit 60,000 by the end of the next 4 years. So he doesn't like to hear that, but that's what we're going to do. So I'm excited. I'm ready to get working. You know, it's I would just tell you that it's a tremendous honor to have Virginians put their faith, put their trust in Pam and me for our leadership over the next 4 years. And I will promise you that I will be tireless. I will work hard every day for Virginia. And as I said at the beginning of my comments, it wasn't that long ago that Virginia was the #1 state in this great country of ours to do business. And I want to make it #1 together, again together. So together, I hope you'll work with me. I look forward to serving Virginia for the next 4 years. Again, we live in the best Commonwealth and the best country in this world, so let's together make it happen. Have a great weekend, and God bless all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Governor. Just before we adjourn, I just want to say 2 things. 1, take these with you if you want more. They're on the way out. And 2, give a round of applause to our events team, Karen Samakowicz, Lindsay, Laura, all of our team, Donna, Samantha. Give them a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. We hope you've enjoyed this program. We pray that you have safe holiday season. We'll stand adjourned.